Unfortunately, some members of the media
use their platforms to push their own personal bias.
And agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Unfortunately, some members of the media
use their platforms
To push their own personal bias. And agenda
to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Last I checked, this is not a democracy. It's a republic. Yeah, we stand for the republic for which it stands. That's the Pledge of Allegiance. What are they talking about? Democracy. I know what they're talking about. It's the same thing. It's the same thing we're hearing across, social media. Let's post fake versions of history and rob people of their pedigree. It's crazy. Sound is low. One Tug said the sound is low, Jason. Is that true? Is the sound low? Because we can't adjust it. Wow. Hold on. All right. How's that sound now? Said the sound is low. Tell you what. Let me go on my settings real quick. Everybody says sounds good now? No good sound? Okay. It may have been low for a minute. One Tugs, you need to give me what you're drinking. I met the One Tugs. Mr. and Mrs. One Tugs came right here to Texas. Came all the way to Texas to give me some amazing books. Some of them I've shared with you. Some of them are still on the menu. Especially a really compelling book they gave me about Noah in New Zealand. So in 1877, there was a travelogue that came out of this in 1877. But in 1877, this guy named J.L. Porter, he's going through Lebanon and Syria, and he's going to the high reaches, the high mountains. There's a lot of mountainous regions in Lebanon and Syria. And he's looking for evidence, excuse me, of the races of the giants mentioned in the Old Testament. The Rephaim, the Anakim, the Zuzums, the Zamzumums, the Emams. He's looking for evidence of these giants. And he finds them. Within the first month of my channel, I did a video on giants. And then later on, I had mentioned this guy, J.L. Porter, and what he had found in Syria, in the mountains of Syria. Later on, within 6 months, I did a video on the giant cities of Bashan. Never was a popular video. Back then, I could barely get 3,000 or 4,000 views a video. It was a long time ago, and a lot of those videos, just people don't go back to watch them. But I revealed the contents of his research, his book. J.L. Porter in 1877, in the 1870s, he finally published it in 1877. But he had he had come across astonishing archaeological structures in the mountains of Syria. And I had brought it to your attention that he was describing the exact same jambs, lintels, and door frames that are in Tiahuanaco in Bolivia in South America. And because out of one single stone, the archaeologist J.L. Porter could not figure out how in the hell did they take a single stone and make a door frame with a megalithic door that swiveled on pivots, all made out of one stone. The door and the jambs were all of one stone, and yet it was movable. And these megalithic doors were so perfectly balanced that a child could literally push one open. He found these all over Syria. This is a perfect description of doors that have been found in Peru among 3,500-year-old ruins. But in Syria, these doors, the actual cut beds in the mountains, the rooms, the entryways, stepped seating arrangements, everything in Bashan demonstrated that its occupants had to have stood at least 9 foot tall. The reason I'm telling you about the giant cities of Bashan from 1877, I had done a video about this from a PDF. I had read the PDF. But someone has taken it upon themselves to send me the original book from 1877, The Giant Cities of Bashan. This is the original book. It is amazing. I'm going to have to reread it and go through this. The things this man found. He's got a whole section in the back of nothing but the second Deuteronomy, Numbers, and the book of Joshua that shows all the battles with the giants. Yeah, remember Goliath was a giant. He was 9 foot 9 inches tall. He was 9 foot 9 inches tall. When we talk about giants, we're not talking about anything from, just something so weird, 40 foot tall people. We're not talking about the Jewish version, 300 L's in the book of, the third Enoch, book of giants and stuff, talking about 100 cubits high. Yeah, come on, man. It's all Jewish fiction. We're talking about giants. We're talking about like the Tamahu, which are seen in Egyptian monuments as standing a good 2 heads taller than anybody else. All other races, all these different races are depicted on the Egyptian temples of Karnak. Not the Tamahu. The Tamahu are not the same height as everybody else. The Tamahu are 2 heads taller than everyone. And we have amazing researchers that have linked the Tamahu to the giants of Palestine at the time. So anyway, I just got this book. I just picked it up from the post office today. Giant Cities of Bashan. I'm going to go ahead and give it a reread, and I'm going to go ahead and do a whole new video on giants. I'm going to do it live because all my other giants, all my original first 300 and something videos, they're packed with really good information, but none of them were live videos. They were all just presentations off of a tablet. I'm going to redo all of them because there's so much good information in the original Archaix presentations. It's just, I never took the time to redo them and do them live. I'm going to do this one live. Giant Cities of Bashan. It's amazing. It's amazing. I also got this book of receipts today. This is from the 1800s, 1866, I think. This is a book of receipts, meaning if there's anything wrong with you in the 1800s, this book, you just look up the symptoms, look up what you were going through, and it told you exactly what ingredients you need, what you need to put together to make your own medicines. This is before pharmaceutical companies. Doctors made their own medicines. This receipt book is all about all the home remedies to basically cure anything you could imagine the human body could suffer. It's all in here. This is I have 6 or 7 of these. I'd like to PDF them so I can pass them on to somebody who would want to collect it. But I have a whole bunch of receipts books. But we're starting. Matter of fact, Big John came today, and I gave him the rest of the fairy tales and fables books for kids, and I gave him those two big North American medicinal plants, Bureau of Ethnology from the 1800s. So Big John's already on it. He's already on it. Some members of the media, oh my God, can you believe that mainstream media would actually accuse other venues of the media of bias? Can you believe it? That's why everybody's turning to alt media now. That's why social media is where everybody goes now. Nobody trusts mainstream media. Mainstream. If you still watch mainstream media today, you're among the living dead. You're a zombie, zombified, golem, brainwashed, pretty much a moron. Only a moron's going to sit there and listen to that drivel and actually believe that that's true. Hell, today I found it really interesting when somebody pointed out to me, showing me all of Vance's history. Our Vice President Vance is just like Zelensky in Ukraine. I couldn't believe it. Well, I can believe it. I wasn't even surprised. Even President Trump was an actor. But to see that Vance's history was acting? What the hell? What's going on in Washington, D.C.? I'll tell you what's going on. It's a captured operation. It's been a captured operation. They didn't put a fence around D.C. just because they wanted to. That was a symbol to the world that Olympus has fallen. Yeah, come on, man. You don't put a stooge in there like Trump with an acting history. You're fired. Come on, man. And actually think that there's real politics happening here. No, man. It's a captured operation. United States is 100% owned. Yeah, if you can't make it in Hollywood, go into politics. They're both the same. Absolutely, Lala. Yeah, Riyadh, The Apprentice is one of the first degrees of masonry. The first three are the ancient degrees. You're still an apron wearing apprentice. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's crazy. So crazy. All right, let me get some members of the media. Let me get that video out of here. Remove that from studio. Present. Let's see here. Let's share my screen real quick. So, speaking of y'all see that? WTF are you thinking? The Philosophies of an Ordinary Man, Ivan Trich. There it is right there. Let me see if y'all seeing the same thing I am. I got 3 screens up here, but I got to look on a totally independent screen to see this. There we go. Oh, man. What is that? Come on. You never make anything easy. There it is. There's my video. Okay, you are seeing the same thing I'm seeing. All right, cool. So yeah, it's this book is by Ivan Trich. This is our errant ad for the day. So, is what you believe to be true really true? That's the subject matter of this book. Or do you just believe it is because you were taught that it is true and never looked any further? Have you ever questioned who you are? Have you ever wondered where you are or why? Are you thinking? Although we are taught differently from birth to death, you are the true power here. Change your perspective and change your reality. All that sounds very familiar to me. Ivan Trich wrote this book, written by a fellow errant, and available everywhere books are sold. So I believe it's Heartsbane Press. But you might want to check this out. This is all I was sent by the man, Ivan Trich. I do believe that, well, I don't know why I defaulted to that video. Here it is. There it is. This is Ivan Trich's books on top of Chronicon. There it is right there. Chronicon. Wow. Man, Chronicon's huge. Chronicon Part 1. So he separated, so big, he separated it into two. There it is. Chronicon Part 1 and Part 2. Ivan Trich's books right here. Fellow errant. That's your errant ad for the day. We'll check it out again before this video is over with. Thank you, Ivan Trich. Everywhere books are sold. Man, he's doing better than I am. Got that accomplished. So yeah, those two books right there look like they're going to be real interesting. I got this today too. I have like 7 of these Century Book of Facts. But they're all different years. That's the beautiful thing about these books. They're published in different years. You can look up everything. It's got like this one right here for like 1902, 1903. It has steel mill production, ores. It can just show you across the United States just how much natural resources we had. I'm talking about where we were mining enough to build whole cities every single month. It's overwhelming. That's why the 1800s was in a massive explosive amount of growth. That's why I'm not on board at all with all these guys talking about there's a great mystery with the world's fairs. There isn't. I can't find one. If there's a great mystery, it's only in your questions, because in the actual facts, I'm not seeing it. I have the books on the world's fairs published. The world's fairs were released. I have actual magazines and books I've been showing on my channel from 1851, talking about the excitement across America, about all these people coming from overseas to show off the latest technology. I even have excerpts already highlighted in books from Carnegie and Rockefeller, where they were taking over the industry of the United States. And one threat that was in their way were the world's fairs, because everybody was bringing all kinds of technology and all these things, and they couldn't have it. So we're going to be going into that in the future, but it's not in this video. Not in this video. Let's see. Gracie, you need to do some homework on the 1800s and how big some of those factories are, filled with kids working in them. Gigantic. Yeah, I just get, I'm real short fused with people who isolate particulars and spread and try to isolate a particular and turn it into a mystery, which requires you to ignore everything else that was going on in the 1800s just to promote your little mystery. No, I'm not with it. Not with it. You guys need to go watch my 2 videos on the 1800s before you start making comments you're going to get embarrassed about. Thank you, moderators, for being in here. It's just a genuine, the day after tomorrow, Martin Leakey and I, we're doing the long reset. We're about to show definitive proof as to what happened over a 400-year period that literally put the human species in intellectual and engineering stasis. No development. We built cathedrals, star forts, universities popped up everywhere. The human family was on the rise. Information was being spread. Cultural revolutions going on all over the world. And then something happened. Something happened. I'm talking about for 250 years, we were opening universities, building star forts, and building cathedrals. And then we got hit with something that for 400 years basically left us struggling. And when it ended, that's when the Renaissance began. And we began to climb out of that stupor. All right. This is after the Dark Ages. Tina, Tina, that's after the Dark Ages. So here it is, all caps. It's all caps. I'm looking for all caps. You got a question? This is truth or error. This is true or false, fact or fiction. Ask your question. Ask me, Jason, do you believe this is true? Or Jason, is it true that this didn't happen or did happen? This is your chance to ask me yes or no, true or false, and I'm going to give you the reasons why I say one or the other. Here it is right here, all caps. Let me know. Let me know what your question is. Right here. I got one right here. LTO, uncommon sense. Uncommon sense, huh? Is that like are you like a spinoff of Thomas Paine, who wrote Common Sense? LTO, uncommon sense. Because there is a book called Uncommon Sense that sounds a lot like Thomas Paine's, like a parody, but it's really deeply philosophical. Jason, do you know about Coral Castle in Florida? Is it actually an anomaly, or could it have been built like those buildings in the 1800s? I know what you know. I wasn't there. I know what you know, that this guy basically put together a garden full of coral, huge pieces of stone, very, very heavy. And there's a lot of mystery around it. It's not something I've really researched because it's so late in history. But apparently he had a secret. He had a secret to moving great weights of stones and moving them around. Some people think it was sympathetic vibration. Some people think, but every bit of that is theoretical. No one until this day has ever proven how he did it. Additionally, we don't even know if it's a scam and a hoax. We don't even know because there were no eyewitnesses. So we don't know if tractors were used to put everything into place and then turn around and after a period of time opened it up to the public, or somebody discovered, or whatever. There's not enough information about it. And to me, it just happened in the 20th century. So I really can't. It's not something that really interests me. It's too late in history. So Coral Castle could be a scam. It could be legitimate. He may have found a way. I don't know. The sympathetic vibratory physics would be a nice explanation, but it was coral, and coral is bone matter that's been fossilized in salt water. I don't know how that would be. It's not like a crystalline structure like rhyolite or basement rock like granite. I don't know. Yeah, you're asking me a question for which my very first question asked to me tonight is going to be an I don't know. Yeah, Coral Castles, and I don't know. I don't know if it's a scam. I don't know anything about it. I've read about it, and it's just inconclusive. I have seen the YouTube videos, just like most of you have, of that guy moving huge slabs of rock using like a steel ball and a counterweight, but that doesn't account for actually setting them, elevating them, moving them in different places. He's just moving big old giant, multi-ton rocks. But I don't know. Good question. I don't know. Couldn't even begin to tell you about Coral Castle. What about the incubator babies? How does that fit into the world's fairs? Well, I was going to go into incubator babies on one of my next 1800s videos because there is no mystery. They didn't start appearing until the late 1880s. And the people have made a mystery out of it. It does sound kind of weird and all that, but the incubator babies were all. It was first started in France, and it was introduced as a technology to keep. It was like a postnatal care. They were designed to keep the babies warm after they were born, especially premature babies. There's no mystery with the incubator babies. The mystery that is created is by social, people who haven't done their homework and found out that these were patents that were filed to keep premature babies alive after, postnatal. So there is no mystery. Like I said earlier, the only mystery here is how these dudes are turning it into a mystery. The incubator babies are not mysterious. It was an idea in the 1880s, very popular in the 1890s, probably all the way to about around the time of the Titanic, 1911, 1912. But it's there was no babies being born in incubators, and then this is how they repopulated a world after a reset. That is a very popular narrative and has zero evidence to support it. Because when you look up the incubators and all the microfish, when you look them up in the old books that I have, which I'm going to show, yeah, the incubators were hospital devices, and they were sold to hospitals. They were invented by doctors because they wanted to keep these premature babies in France. This is where it was developed first, the incubators. Well, it was keep them alive when they were born premature. So no mystery there. No mystery there. Jewel, what sea elevation will be safe in Australia in the future? I don't think you have to worry about Australia in the future. Australia is going to be like one of the safest areas in the world, pre and post 2040. I've discussed this ad nauseum in videos 3.5 years ago, maybe even 2.5 years ago. Australia, New Zealand are only going to get much, much bigger post 2040. It's not, I wouldn't even worry about sea level then at all. Wouldn't even worry about it. I would worry about being on the coast during a tumultuous time during 2040. But other than that, I wouldn't worry about anything permanent. Not in Australia, not New Zealand. Much of Indonesia too will be a solid landmass. It won't be hundreds and even thousands of independent islands. Not post 2040. You need to go watch some of my Phoenix Phenomenon videos so you can get the geographical layout about what's going to happen on the next shift. Scott Johnson, I can't tell you anything about crypto. Even on the OFIS project, I don't have anything to do with crypto. I don't understand the markets. I don't study the markets, nor do I care about the markets. So can't tell you anything about crypto. That's Barry and Doug and their little team and what they're doing. They're doing all the crypto. I don't have any interest in that whatsoever. At all. Jamie Robbins, Coral Castle. Ed was a proven fraud. I don't know, man. Jamie Robbins, I heard you and Big John and Jahara did a video together recently, and I want to put that on Archaix TV. I heard all three of y'all did a video. I was so jealous. Blank Space is asking me, Enki and Enlil are separate entities. True or false? Okay, Enki and Enlil are post-reset constructions. I don't know if they embody concepts that are attached to identities in a pre-reset world. Meaning anything that we have on Enki, anything that we have on Enlil, anything that we have of any personalities mentioned in the Sumerian text is about 500 to 1,000 years after those individuals had already passed. The entire corpus of Sumerian writings are post-reset, meaning they're after the fact, ex post facto compositions. None of them were written when any of those events they depict actually transpired. So Enki and Enlil are two different identities in the Sumerian traditions. Other than that, couldn't tell you much. Lacey Z got one. Jason, what are your thoughts on 5G and body area network? Body area network. Oh, there you go. Hitting me with something never heard of. I rarely heard you speak on this, and this tech has been around forever. I don't know. I do know that I was hospitalized. They told me it was COVID. I spent 13 days in the hospital. I got off the respirator after about 6 hours. It was forcing oxygen down my lungs. I got put on I got off the ventilator onto a vapotherm. I stayed on the vapotherm for like a whole day. It's mentholated air. And then they put me on oxygen on the maximum, on 10 on the maximum. And I stayed on that for a couple days and then started, I videotaped my experience, 13 days in the hospital. I lost like 40 pounds. I was in great shape laying flagstone. Many of y'all know that YouTube took the video down instantly when I explained what kind of medicine they gave me, and I walked out the hospital the very next day. I had lost weight, lost muscles. I had atrophied. I got real skinny. You guys have seen the pictures. I still have those photos, but YouTube took that video down and gave me a warning. They gave me a milky white a milky white IV and promised me that I would be out the hospital the next day. And my lungs would be healed. I'd be able to breathe. I don't know how they knew that, but I have buddies that are ex-military, and they absolutely listened to my whole story, and they told me straight up, it says, well, the military does that all the time. That same milky white IV you're talking about, yeah, they give that to those dudes that are always handling those depleted uranium rounds, man, low in the gunneries, for the munitions for the tanks and the batteries and stuff. They have depleted uranium rounds. So I don't know. I'm gonna let you try to figure out what happened to me. They called it COVID, but something took my breath away, took all my energy, and almost killed me because I had no energy. And it took me 45 minutes to go 5 feet from a hospital bed to a toilet. And after my third day in the hospital, I couldn't even do that without a nurse walking me that 5 feet. Almost died. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I never heard of body area network. But you're talking about the 5G towers and all that. To me, that's a military weapon. They're absolutely unnecessary. To me, that's all straight military. That's a military weapon. Probably population control, crowd control, something like that. NAS. Do you believe the Russian Empire were enemies of the Jesuit papacy and why the Bolshevik Revolution happened? There's a lot to unpack in that. All right, you're not on Archaix TV, because if you were, you wouldn't have asked me that question. I have a whole bunch of videos about the Bolsheviks and the takeover of Russia and all that. And they did take over the papacy. It took a while. The Pope was against the Bolshevik type people for a long time. Then there was a takeover. And after that takeover, the Pope has wore a tiny hat ever since. And now the seal of the House of Rothschild's in the Vatican. But the Russian Empire, the Romanov Empire was anti-Jewish for centuries. And they had even interfered in a lot of other areas going in Europe against the Jewish trade empire. It's one of the great secrets of history that the trade routes throughout the ancient world, going back to the Roman days, were pretty much all Jewish controlled. And Russia taxed the hell out of them, didn't let them come into their country doing all that stuff. And when these people of Bolshevik descent would rise up and cause problems, almost every time it was financial problems. But the Russians never had a problem finding them because they were isolationists. They're always isolation. Every country they are in the world, they're isolationists. This is where the term ghetto came from. And the Romanovs of Russia were Christians. It was a Christian Russian empire, and they implemented a pogrom program where they would basically quarantine these people away from the rest of the Russian people, and it quelled a bunch of problems. Sometimes the pogroms resulted in them escorting those people straight out their country. And this went on for a long period of time. But the Bolshevik Revolution, they have a long memory, and it took international planning from all kinds of Jewish-controlled banks. But the Bolsheviks were 100% exacting revenge against the Russian Christian population, and this is why they turned the Russian Christian Empire of the Romanovs into the USSR, which was an atheist state. And in order to effect this, it took over a 20-year program, and they had to exterminate over 60 million Russian Christians in order to cower the rest of them into submission. And this is how the Soviets built these badass military bases, huge military bases, because they worked the Russian population to death, and then just filled up ditches with their bodies. But that was the Jewish takeover of Russia to become what we know of as the USSR, the Soviet Socialist Republics. Rune Dragon, do you think the angels had something to do with building the cathedrals? Hell no, I don't think that. Humans, just like the whole Zechariah Sitch and Billy Carson BS about the Anunnaki. They're humans. The Anunnaki were humans. all these different gods, the titans of Hesiod's theogony, the Titan race, Sanchuniathon, the Phoenician historian, 1000 BC. Yeah, they were all humans. Yeah, there's no angels required to build a cathedral. None. Arthros Airy, very good question. Jason, is it true that King Alulim was actually a queen? Man, that's a good question. So, when the Sumerian prism was rewritten, it was rewritten by a patriarchy post-reset after the 2239 BC Typhon flood. So, the 241,200 shars of the pre-flood world was a 670-year period of the lunisolar calendar of 360 days each. This 8-king dynasty that ruled for 670 years ended, and in that dynasty we find out through the writings of Berosus that one of the kings was named Alulim, and you'll find out from some really interesting sources like Professor Waddell from pre-World War II, and Sumerian scholars like Samuel Noah Kramer and Maureen Gallery Kovacs, you'll find out that Alulim is actually a reference to a female before the flood. We have many traditions of a pantheon of 7 male gods, male divinities before the cataclysm, and there's always the mentioning of an 8th. The eighth though was after the cataclysm. The 8th was always obscured because the 8th was the genetrix, the female by which the 7 males derived their authority. We have these traditions pretty much hidden in the legends of Scorpion King. What is a scorpion? An arachnid. What's an arachnid? An 8-legged insect. It had eight ways it touched the world. It was an 8 ruler dynasty, but the 8th was female. The 7 were male. The same thing we have in the ancient North American, like Tisalgi, ancient Cherokee, and the Algonquin branches. We have the traditions of Spider Grandmother. Spider Grandmother was before the flood. Her webs held up the dew of the sky. It was when her webs broke, the dew of the sky flooded the world and ended the races of the giants. But Spider Grandmother is an arachnid. It too is a reference to an 8-person dynasty. We have the return of this 8-person dynasty in the form of the 7 kings in the book of Revelation. But it says there were 7 kings, and there is an 8th who is of the 7. The riddle is in the book of Revelation. I've mentioned it several times. This we have the ancient Mayan Temple of the Cross calendar, which is very similar to the Mayan long count. It started in 3121 BC. It too recognizes Lady Beast of Upturned Snout. That's what she's called in Mayan. The reason she's called Lady Beast with Upturned Snout is because this title was attributed to her post-reset. Once a patriarchal power had arisen out of the ashes of the pre-flood world, which was a matriarchy, of course, anytime they mentioned the female authorities from the ancient times, they would mention them as Medusas, as sirens, as Lulim, as all kinds of negative connotations and dark goddesses. This is how the female rulers were always looked at by the patriarchy, which came after the cataclysm. So yeah, it's a good question. Alulim, yes, Alulim is attached to the identity of a female in Sumerian texts. Good question. Let's see. Gray C, is Ammon Hillman correct? Man, you're trying to get me in trouble. I'm drinking Earl Grey tea tonight. Pattern break, changing it up. But that don't mean you can't buy some of that Archaix coffee. Yeah, the link is in the description box. You want some of the, go check that website out and look at all the Archaix blends. Ammon Hillman cannot be assessed by me. I'm not a Greek classicist. I don't translate Greek. But what I can say is that if we can agree that Ammon Hillman believes that the story of Jesus is a fiction and that the church historicized something that was previously only literary, then Ammon Hillman is absolutely correct despite anything he says. I don't have to quote him. If this is his position, I'm going to say he's right. How he gets to that position, I don't know, because I don't study Ammon Hillman. I don't. But I am 100% convinced, by virtue of my own research, which I have freely shared across Twitter, in my published books, and now all across YouTube, that the story of Jesus is very, very spiritual. And it was one of the greatest literary masterpieces ever. And it took over 400 years and the suppression of many other books and scholars for the church to finally come out the other end with a gospel that claimed that Jesus was actually historical. Yeah. So that's my best to answer for Ammon Hillman. I can't. Yeah, he's claiming an expertise. It's the same thing. The same thing could be applied if Ammon Hillman was asked, "What do you think about Jason of Archaix is chronological material?" If he would have an opinion and yet not mention any chronographers, not mention any chronicons from the ancient past or even modern, all the way up to the Renaissance period, there are many chronicons that have been published in the last 2,000 years. If he's not well versed on chronological matters, then he's not able to give you that assessment about Jason of Archaix chronographical material. He wouldn't be able to do that. Just like I'm not a Greek classicist, so I can't tell you that. But what I can say is that if he agrees that Jesus was literary, that only became historical later, then I'm going to say that, yeah, he's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Okay, that's weird. Where's your question at? Jason, I asked this question years ago. At that time, I felt your answer was hurried. So I'd like if you'd ask the question again. I'm going to need the question. Where's the question at? Maybe we'll get to it. Jamie DeAndre, do you believe these structures could have been built using geopolymer and molds? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've even gone through William Cortis's material where ancient structures were analyzed, and they know for a fact that geopolymers were added. Yeah, the magnetite crystals are in disarray. That's the biggest clue. They had a method in the ancient world of taking limestone from a quarry, and they did something to the limestone to liquefy it, and they added beryl, quartz, and other silicates and to harden it. And then when they poured it into molds, they had their blocks and they built these structures like the Great Pyramid. How do we know? Because when natural limestone is quarried from a block, the magnetite crystals are all aligned with magnetic north. In igneous rock, it's the exact same way. Magnetite crystals are always aligned when they have plenty of time to align with magnetic north as the rock cools or as the rock hardens. In the case of sedimentary rock, when it comes from moist like ocean compression. But the magnetite in a lot of these structures is in disarray in all different directions. How is that possible? Because the natural quarried stone was liquefied. Materials were added to it, and then it was poured into molds, and then it was artificially heated. It wasn't natural, it was an artificial heat. It was so rapid the magnetite couldn't go back toward magnetic north. It was all in disarray. So that's just one. There are other ways to detect geopolymers. That's just one. So yeah, geopolymers were used in the ancient world all the time. Yeah, that's not even a mystery. The mystery is how they did it. Jeff Farrell, are they spraying the skies to prevent the phoenix? This would be beyond my ability to know, bro. If you find out, let me know. I've seen some intriguing visual evidence, which is not really evidence to me. You guys know I don't really take pictures as evidence. Photos of things cannot be used as factual. They can be used as incidental evidence, but you can't base everything off a picture. Pictures are easy to manipulate, especially, I mean, look what all these other guys are doing, taking a picture of the old West, and then a picture of a cathedral and saying, well, how did they build this during this? But why don't you go to sub-Saharan Africa and then take a picture of one of those guys that's got this big old loop through his nose and then put a skyscraper next to it and say, how the hell are you going to get me to believe that they're building this when this is going on at the same time? Come on, man. It's all by context. A picture can be used to create an entire narrative. And deception by omission will allow that narrative to get promoted way beyond anything that's even a resemblance of the truth. It's crazy. Jason, did World War II happen like we were told? Okay. I believe World War II happened pretty much like I have books. I have books published in 1946, 47, 48 of the battle showing photographs. I don't believe World War II happened for the reasons we're told. I believe there was a lot of misinformation as to what was really going on. I believe it was a bankers' war, and I believe that the United States was used as the weapon of the Jewish state. The World Jewish Congress used the might of the United States and used the United States people and hurled our sons and daughters against our cousins, nieces, and nephews in Europe and made us fight each other for basically a Jewish banking war in order to carve out a state in Palestine for these people. And it was all by design, every bit of it. The reasons we fought World War wasn't to defeat the evil Nazis. The Nazis were nationalists. They were just trying to protect the integrity of their economy, and somebody was messing with their economy. You need to go to Archaix TV for that type of information. Beans and Toast. Man, I like that name. Man, you sound like some of my buddies. Hey, man, what's your name? Yeah, my name's Beans and Toast. Beans and Toast. That's crazy. Hey, Jason, go and invite old Beans and Toast over. I like that name, Beans and Toast. Do you think that the part of the Phoenix phenomenon could be this comet they're mentioning will hit the Earth? No, I do not. I do not. Absolutely do not. Man, according to the model, we're going like 66,000 miles per hour with an obliquity at 23.5 degrees. They claim there's nuance every year of a few seconds. We're going 360 degrees around a star that in itself is traveling hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. In a solar system traveling hundreds of thousands or millions of miles per hour, whatever. Do you really think that we have the actual technology to keep up with all these objects and know exactly how they're going to come back? And when we're moving, according to their model, Earth is moving. The sun is moving. We're never ever going to be in the same spot. So all these comets and all these bolides and all that, do you really think they have the technology to keep up with all this stuff in space? And it's bullshit. The whole model is bullshit. No. Not happening. Now, they may have narratives in place where there's something in 2029 they may need to do. So they have that narrative in place that they can blame a rock from space for whatever it is they intend to do by 2029. Yeah. Not me. I ain't buying it. David Rodriguez, good question. No, I have not. Jason, did you finish reading the 2 books of Pierre Sabak? No, I did not. I have them right here. The holographic universe or something. No, that's Talbot. Man, it's the holographic something. Pierre Sabak has some good books. Take nothing away from the man. It's just hard for me to get into books where I have so much agreement with someone else. I tend to go for the books where I totally disagree with people and I want to show people why. But I don't really take issue with Pierre. I really don't. I need to do a book review just to give him the satisfaction of knowing that, hey man, I went through your material and checked it out. It's appreciate that reminder. I do need to pull his books back out. Juliet Goudreau. Jason, are the current expos the successor to world fairs? You said the world fair stopped. Why? Juliet, I don't know. You just heard Trump. You just heard somebody mentioning Trump's talking about bringing the world fairs back. That means that they stopped for a while. I know the 1904 World's Fair was the last big one, although there were still some here and there after that. But at 1904 was also one of the biggest years, 1902, 1903, and 1904, of new Rockefeller and Rothschild funded libraries and Carnegie funded libraries that just popped up all over Europe and the United States. I know the World's Fairs were also a threat to the Rockefeller Carnegie power structure that was just being laid out as well. So I don't know. I don't know why they stopped. I have a feeling that Rockefeller and Carnegie had a lot to do with it. But the sinking of the Titanic pretty much ended a whole old like the old regime, the old multimillionaires and billionaires regime that were still opposing world banks, that were still opposing the Bolshevik takeover. They pretty much all died together on the Titanic, and that is a mystery of another vintage. If it was even the Titanic, I think they may have switched it out with the Olympic or something, but still, it was repainted Titanic. Cosmic 137. Is Alexander the Great a Nephilim? Wow. Alexander the Great of Macedon was the son of Olympias, a Macedonian queen. His dad was an asshole. I read all about him. You can too. It's a whole bunch of information about Alexander of Macedon. He only became Alexander the Great in 331 BC when he marched his army into Babylon from Tyre. After taking Tyre, they could not believe it. Nebuchadnezzar couldn't take Tyre. So Alexander of Macedon had his men build a bridge all the way out to the island of the mighty fortress of Tyre, of Phoenicia, and took it. No one had ever contemplated doing such a thing. Tyre had been impregnable. So he won Babylon without a fight, walked in, and in 331 BC on a Nemesis X date. And there was phenomena that year for Nemesis X. He became Alexander the Great for sitting on the throne of Babylon. But no. Was he Nephilim? No. Let's see. Tina Harris. Jason, are you still live? I'm not sure how to answer that. I'm alive. True or false? Incubator babies. Absolutely true that incubators were being used in the 1880s and 1890s and early 1910s to save prematurely born babies in heated incubators until they were ready, until they had grown and been nourished enough to where they didn't need the incubator anymore. That's true. Were humans? Did humans come from incubators and all this weird ass narrative that's been put out? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Welcome. You're welcome, Spencer Morris. Hang around, man. Listen, a lot of people come. A lot of people come to my channel and only hang out for the new videos. But I'm telling you, if you really want a genuine education that's going to open your mind up to the old world, you need to go back to my older videos. My older videos are just packed with data. Autumn sphere, 1656 periodicity is different from the moment we got 365 days a year, question mark. I don't know how to answer that. I don't even know if there's a question there. 1656 periodicity. I don't know what you're talking about. 1656 is how many years we're in a pre-flood world. It's also how many months between Phoenix phenomena dates. Every 1656 months is actually 138 years. I don't know. So Meryl GG, hello Meryl. What is your theory of the dark star? Who or what occupies it? You don't talk about it very much. Okay. It's always got to be Meryl. I'm about to drink some water, and then I'm going to proceed to blow your mind. I'm going to tell you something about our sky and about the simulated world that we're in, why we're here, because your question touches on these things. And because I'm going to have to talk about the dark star, I'm going to have to tell you the truth about the zodiac, because a lot of people are still holding on to a model that is not true. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what happened and where our modern zodiac came from, because there's still a lot of people that aren't processing what I'm laying down. So hold on. Leave it up to Meryl. Didn't even know you were in the chat tonight, Meryl. My book, Chronicon, is this thick. It's on the shelf back here right now. I've showed it many times. I'm not going to show it now. Chronicon is gigantic. The very beginning of Chronicon, it introduces you to the idea of the Nemesis Cataclysm. The whole idea, the history of the world as studied through calendars has shown us that in the beginning, before a cataclysm, a pre-cataclysm world, we had two luminaries. We had a sun and we had a day star. In the very beginning, this is 5239 BC, the very first year of the Anuna-Nur chronology of 600-year periods that later in time became known as the Great Year, that in Sumerian and Akkadian literature became known as a Great Shar. It was 216,000 days. 216,000 days is precisely 600 years on a 360-day count. During this period of time, we had two suns. This is why I should have done a Star Wars video a long time ago, but Star Wars even begins the same way. They're showing you a deep truth with Luke Skywalker on that planet early in the movie, and it shows the two suns. This is what happened to that world. One star went dark. One star went dark, and the other star became the new day star. Those of you who have studied my charts, my handwritten charts, you will know that there are two ecliptic planes in the model of our solar system. I call it a model and not an actual one because this entire sky is projected. The sky is an illusion. It's a multi-tiered hologram. But the hologram is teaching us about the ancient past. This is what the turning of the stars, the shars do, the counting of the dragons around Alpha Draconis. Today, you know of a zodiacal belt that has Aries all the way to Pisces, going all the way around the zodiacal belt. But that's not what the ancients knew. They didn't know that belt, and there's a reason for this. That belt did not exist. Those star patterns were unknown to the ancients. But they had a belt. They had a zodiac they did know about. Totally different constellations, totally different concepts attached to them. And there's a reason. The Titius-Bode law shows us perfect mathematical proof that the distance from Mercury to the sun times like pi, 3.14, is exactly where we find Venus. Venus from the surface of the sun times pi is where we find Mars. Mars from the distance of the surface of the sun times pi is where we find the asteroid belt, which is the ancient it's an ancient throne called Electra. Electra has been destroyed by Tiamat, which was a great celestial dragon that came out of the north. Now, the asteroid belt, which is an empty throne, according to Charles Burgoyne in the 1880s, the empty throne of the asteroid belt times pi from the surface of the sun is exactly where you find the king of planets, Jupiter. Jupiter times pi from the surface of the sun is where you find the ring lord planet, Saturn. So Neptune and Uranus change places, and they break the pattern. They are the pattern break. Pluto's not even a planet. Pluto's just a lost moon. So I never mentioned Earth. Why didn't I mention Earth, Merrill? I didn't mention Earth because according to the Teich's-Bode mathematical distribution of the planets from the surface of the sun, Earth never belonged in this system. The dark satellite doesn't belong in this system. Luna doesn't belong in this system. Our moon is a world. It's not even a moon. There's no other body, not even Jupiter with its 41 or 42 moons, not even Saturn with its 20-something moons. There's no other body in our system that has a moon as big as we do compared to the host. The moon is 1/4 of our size. It's not a moon. It's a double planet system. So this is the model. I don't believe the sky. I believe the sky is all illusion anyway. It's just a multi-tiered hologram. But the sky is teaching us all these things. So we have this issue with the Teich's-Bode law, the mathematical distribution. It shows a perfect system without the Earth. How do we get here? How did we get here? Well, I'm going to tell you this. When Nemesis imploded and became a dark star in the region of the Cygnus Rift, it catapulted Luna, Phoenix, Nemesis X object, and whatever other worlds we don't even know about, and all these huge glacier-sized chunks of ice that came probably from Electra, which was a water world that became the asteroid belt. But where all these comets came from, these dirty ice balls come from, that detonated. But what's really interesting is bolides and comets have these highly elliptical orbits that don't follow the ecliptic plane. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the sun has a equatorial region called the ecliptic. It's a plane. Here's the model. The sun is like this. The plane divides it in half. On that plane is Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and then Uranus and Neptune cross their orbits, but they're all on the plane. All of them are on the plane. Nemesis, the Nemesis X object, is way in the abyss of space. This was drawn on all my earlier charts. It's in the deep of space. Guess where it's located? According to the ancients, it was in the Apsu. The Apsu is the great deep. It is the lower area of space that was unknown. Why is it unknown? Because every single technologically advanced civilization that's known to archaeology that existed in the 4th and 3rd millennium and half of the 2nd millennium BC were all equatorial in northern hemisphere. So what does that mean? It means that they could not see that area of space below. They couldn't see it over the horizon because they're in the northern hemisphere. Now, with the world tilted at 23.5 degree obliquity, that means the axis of our world is pointed at something down there. There's something down there that's keeping us at this point. And yet, when Phoenix appears, it comes out of the north. Phoenix is not on the sun's ecliptic. That's not where astronomer Hoffman saw it in the month of May 1764. We have a Hittite text that I cited in my Chronicon that literally tells us that even the Hittite astronomers were amazed to see a sky dragon descend out of the northern node and darken the sun and pass off into the southern heavens because no objects in the sky move that way. What I'm telling you is that for thousands of years, our world, Earth, the sky simulated that our world was actually on that other ecliptic plane. If you have two stars, they both have gravity wells. These gravity wells create ecliptic. But now we have the issue of cross ecliptics. We have one for Sol, and then we have one at 23 degrees for an object way down there that has literally become like a black hole. Phoenix is on that ecliptic. Nemesis X object is on that ecliptic. The dark satellite is on that ecliptic. Many comets that have been recorded are all coming out on that 23-degree inclination, and this has been published in many astronomy books. So we have an ecliptic plane that crosses ours. Zecharia Sitchin finally got something right. Nibiru was the planet of the crossing, but the crossing he thought it was talking to wasn't the crossing coming close to Earth. It was trans-ecliptics. The dark stars ecliptic, where Phoenix and the Nemesis X object and the dark satellite move, and then all of our worlds around Sol. And the Tychus Bode law shows that without Earth, this system is complete by itself. Without Earth, we are the intruder world. This is what the sky has taught us over thousands of years. This is what the picture has conveyed to us. This is why all these different calendars happen. And what it further conveys to us is there's another belt in the heavens that the ancients all knew, because they didn't know of Aries, they didn't know of Scorpio, they didn't know of the Aqua, the water bearer, Aquarius. They didn't know of Libra, the scales. We don't have any of that in the most ancient traditions at all. But we do have a zodiac. And it was Canis Major, Canis Minor. We had the Phoenix in it. We had Orion, the Pleiades. We had Alpha Draconis, Cetus, Ophiuchus. We had all these in this one belt. All these. And that belt is the original zodiac. And the reason it's the original zodiac of Earth is because our world wasn't even in the solar system until 713 BC, when our world got pulled onto this plane for whatever reason. It got pulled onto this plane, and for 10 degrees the sun moved and went backwards, and our world had 5.25 days added to every single year since then. It changed every single calendar on our world, but it didn't change the Phoenix calendar, which is still moving on the original ecliptic of Nemesis dark star. Every 138 years, every 1,656 years, it's still moving on the belt of Canis Major, Canis Minor, Orion, Arcturus, the Phoenix constellation. It's still moving on the original belt. It's never stopped. It's why it is keeper of the calendar. Our world is the one that trespassed. Our world is now tucked in between Mars and tucked in between Venus, and totally violates the Tychus Bode perfect arithmetic of the system. But in the tribulation period, every bit of that gets undone. Because what happens in the tribulation period? In the tribulation period, our world is moved out of its place. This is what the prophecies in the Old Testament says. In the last days, the world is going to be moved out of its place. It's going to be returned on that original zodiac with Canis Major, Canis Minor, Cetus, all these original, the Orion, Arcturus, the Pleiades, all the original constellations that the ancients knew. During the tribulation period, we're going right back on that belt, because you're going to get taken right off of souls. And this system is going to return to its mathematical perfection, and we're going to be back on the dark star ecliptic. When our world is returned to the dark star ecliptic, that's when the Great Tribulation actually begins. We already know when this is. It's 2046. This is when 1/3 of the day, 1/3 of the night, 1/3 of the stars, 1/3 of the moon, 1/3 of the sun, all these are reduced by 1/3, and 1/3 of the human race is removed. That's 2046. When our world is put back into its original place on the same ecliptic plane as the original zodiac, and the same ecliptic plane that Phoenix, Nemesis X, and the dark satellite travel today. That's a lot to unpack. Thank you, Meryl, for the question. Let's see. I'm gonna have to go back to these comments because I know. Yeah, I've got illustrations of this model. In a lot of my older charts, I show the model. I've drew it all out to show you the two different ecliptics and how it worked. Two different ecliptics, 100% creates two different zodiacal belts. I'm real behind on the questions now. Lower class citizen, Jason, true or false? You recently changed your outlook on this being a prison. I don't know what do you claim my original outlook was, because we're existing within two different realities. And for the collective, 100% is going to be a prison. For you personally, it might be a prison. It's not a prison for me. I'm a highly individualized, immortal being. I'm just borrowing a piece of the construct, moving through it. This is not a soul trap to me. This is not a prison to me at all. But I do see how it would be a prison for the collective. 100%. I don't know anything about Susan T. It's a good question. I have to stick with the historical record. I have zero evidence of continents beyond Antarctica. I've never been to Antarctica. The only thing I know about Antarctica is some stuff I read recently where they were looking for 3,000 forklift drivers to work in Antarctica. So whatever they got going on in Antarctica, I don't know, but they need forklift drivers. I just don't know. All right, looking for more questions. Billy Carson and Drake took big LS this year. LS. I guess, is that losses? Billy Carson set himself up. Brock Lucas, how you doing, man? I've been seeing you for a couple years now. Is it true that Sir Francis Bacon authored the Shakespearean works? This is a very popular theory. I do have books from the last 50 years that talk about this and provide quite a bit of evidence for it. I can't say if it's absolutely factual. It's a really good theory. I am aware that Psalms 46 in the King James Version has a cipher in it. If you go to Psalms 46 and you count, because we do know that Sir Francis Bacon edited the 1611 version of the King James Bible. So the cipher is found in Psalms 46, and in Psalms 46 you can count 46 words down, and you can count 46 words up, and you have spear shake. So they say that has everything to do with Psalms 46, 46 words down, 46 words up, you get spear shake. Some people say because that's only true in the King James translation of the Bible, that it's proof that Sir Francis Bacon put his name in the text. It's you know what? It's very plausible to me. It's very plausible to me. Now, I have copies right here of Bibles. My oldest Bible is 1664, so it's still 50 years after. It's over 50. Yeah, it's 50 years after the King James version. However, I'm also aware, like the Wycliffe version from the 1500s, the King James version doesn't really deviate a whole lot from the Wycliffe. So I really don't know, man. I really don't know. There's definitely some editing going on, but no telling. Let's see. Where am I at? Marigold. When the economy goes digital and people have to join or be left out, will those of us who choose not to join be left alone, or will they try to force us all into it? Okay, well, first of all, I don't know if they're ever going to go digital. I mean, are we not already there? We're still talking about, oh man, they're going to CBD, they're going to change the whole economy. Haven't we already been doing that for 30 years? Living on credit cards, living on debit cards, gift cards. Have we not already done it? Can't we already use apps like Cash App and Zelle and Venmo? And aren't we already doing it? It wouldn't even be a change. Wouldn't even be a change. So I don't know. Jason, what do you think is the reason why so much is hidden from us who ultimately benefits? I'm gonna CC Garland. That's a philosophical question, man, because there's a lot of people who live their lives absolutely clueless, and you know what? They live pretty good lives. They live pretty good lives. And then there's those of us who are driven to know the deeper things. We want to understand. We're the ones that like to take the clocks apart and look at the gears. When it comes to human spirituality, I don't see the acquisition of knowledge being a part of that journey. So I'm going to say that in a Mandelbrot type holographic reality where everything is information based, I'm gonna have to say that we are amazed by the multiplicity of mysteries. But when you're dealing with multiple reality tunnels and timelines and information saturation at multiple different frequencies, it's Mandelbrot set. There's no end to the mysteries that we can examine. All it takes is for many of us to agree that there's a mystery there. And then the more we search for meaning in what is essentially meaningless to us on a spiritual level, the more the construct is going to feed interpretation into it, things that we can interpret. It's going to feed meaning to it. So it's I'm 100% a hypocrite. And the reason I'm saying that is because even though from an intellectual perspective, I can tell you this, at the same time, I'm also guilty of practicing it. Because I like to know how things tick. I want to know the mysteries. I'm that X-Files guy that wants to figure things out. And I can't stand when genuine mysteries are covered up and these comical mysteries are put in their place. Things that are easily disproven, and yet so many people buy into them. That's what triggers me. Everybody knows I get triggered. Hell, I'm human. Hell, I honestly believe that half the people that listen to me to see what's going to fall out of my mouth and really doesn't give a damn about the things I teach. So, yeah, I'm unpredictable, and I get that. But then again, I am predictable. You can pretty much bank on the fact that I'm going to say something genuine in each video. I'm going to say something moronic in each video. I'm going to say something that you're outright probably going to disagree with in each video. And then I'm also going to say some things that are going to make you think, because the implications are incredible if what I'm telling you is true about this reality in these mysteries that we're always trying to peel back. So yeah, it's a good question, CC Garland. I really can't go into much depth in that. I don't know who ultimately benefits, but I do know that if I was going to build a system and I was going to have a bunch of souls traveling through that system, I'm going to make it as believable as possible, because it's going to take away from the experiment if those souls wake up to the fact that they're in a construct. So I'm going to bludgeon them with so many different potentialities that they'll get lost in the myriads of different things that they're going to follow. That's the type of world I would build. It would be saturated with mysteries, so that you would always have something to look into, so that you would never really just come to the realization like I've come to today, that every bit of this is like a major thought construct. It's the greatest escape room ever, and yet it has background programming that is showing this massive history of a 2-star system where 1 star detonates or implodes, and it creates a unique system that has 2 ecliptics. And what that does, because this is what the study of ancient calendars has done for me, it's opened my mind up to what's really going down, and it's made sense of what I used to think was prophecy, but I now understand is programming. And that's what we call the future. these books like the Book of Revelation and the Ragnarok and the return of Typhon traditions and things like that. Yeah, it's good question, man. 3/7 WPNS Co-Highway Guns PLT. Man, that's a lot to unpack. That's a hell of a name you got there, brother, at 838. Is it true that I can present or future dates, multiply by pi or phi, and get isometric dates to somewhat find out about major events going to happen in my life and surroundings? Listen, find my video called Your Biometric Life, where I show my prison history. And I show how I went forward and backward in time counting days using the exact same system that I use in calendrics for counting years. In the arithmetic, there is no difference. Yes, in my video, Your Biometric Life, I show that, yeah, we have patterns, cycles, and epicycles, and yes, they do have predictive value. Absolutely. Looking for another question. Questions in all caps. Kwanzi, I don't even know how to say that, man. I'm not even going to try. 840. Simulacrum or simulation? Both. Both. One does not automatically negate the other. All right, let's see. Oh, where are all my questions at? I don't know who's behind the resets. Those could all. I've gone ad nauseum. I've talked about cataclysm protocols. Yeah, we can theorize forever about that. That's like a first principle question. You may as well ask me who God is. Jeremiah Gabbard, how you doing, man? Do you think you can create a time capsule pack? I would like to do a couple here in Indiana, all books. That's a pretty good idea. I like that idea too. So, Roberto Borosio, Jason, in December 19th through 22nd, 1531, the Virgin Maria de Guadalupe appeared in Mexico. Do you think it is connected to the Lady of Fatima? Let's see something here. Good question. So, let me get my calculator out. 1531 had a lot of sky phenomena in the Book of Wonders. If you look at the Book of Wonders, you'll find 4 or 5 paintings from 1531 of all the weird stuff that appeared in the sky. I don't know if they're connected or not. It's over 300 years apart. It's 386 years apart. I don't know if they're connected or not. I just don't know. I just don't know. But 1531 was an anomalous year for all kinds of activity in the sky. What you're talking about, though, is Lady of Fatima was 1917 when the sun acted erratically in the sky. All right, where's those lights? Okay, Ken Shannon. Okay, sorry, forgot that. Jason, are you familiar with Dan Winter and his decades of work? I've heard Dan Winter's name multiple times. I have never seen any of his work. I've never reviewed any of his videos or anything. So I don't know. You guys would have to educate me about him. I mean, I'm so self-absorbed in my own material that I really don't have have time to review others unless they get under my skin for whatever reason, and then I just go do deep dive in their research. But no, I don't. What does he promote? What is he writing about? What's his core material subject matter about? I've heard his name multiple times, and I've never heard it in a negative connotation that I can remember. Arturo Bauer. Near Santa Cruz, Bolivia, earth mounds and lakes shaped in Egyptian symbols were found recently. Could they be Phoenician? I'm going to say no. You're talking about an area of the world. The greatest activity in the Bolivia region was during the Heleolithic Maritime Empire from 2239 BC, the 552 years of the children of the Sun dynasties. That's Children of the Sun, that big book right there by W.J. Perry. He specializes in that 500-year period, and it was completely ended in the Ogygian Deluge Cataclysm in the Old World calendar of 2208 Anno Mundi, which is our year of 1687 BC in the month of May. It was a Phoenix event, but yeah, any Egyptian semblance in South America would date to that period. That is the Heleolithic Maritime Empire. As a matter of fact, it was from northern Egypt that whole colonies were being exported all over the world. Jason, do you have any experience with the work of Morgue Official? If so, what's your take? No, I don't. I have seen him pop up on my feed multiple times. He's that long blonde hair, kind of looks like a blonde Vlad the Impaler. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I know who Morgue Official is. I don't know anything about him. Seems like a pretty cool cat. He's been around a lot longer than I have, I believe. But I just started seeing him within the last 8-9 months. His videos have been popping up on my feed, but like I said, I just don't have time to look at other people's videos. I just don't. I don't even know what his take is. Morgue Official. I don't even know what he talks about. Let's see. But no, he seems like an interesting guy. I've heard him talk a few times. It's really hard to capture my attention. I'm moving. You guys know I put a video out almost every other day. You guys know I'm just too busy. I'm just so busy. I mean, I've been meaning to get oh man, I've had a long day, man. I done did 100 things today. Oh, Greg Reese. I've been meaning to get Greg Reese on my channel. I really want to talk to him. I want to field his questions. I like the guy, but man, I'm going in 100 different directions. You guys know I'm also on my Office project lately, and we've had some major breakthroughs in that. And I just can't seem to. There's not enough hours in a day. Yeah, it's just not enough hours in a day. Okay, Jason, if we're in a loop, events mirror. Has there been events where transhumanism was spoken about? Like desire to hijack our free will or had tried. Wondering if tried before, unsuccessful, or similar fables. No, this is kind of a new thing. I've never found anything in the historical record like transhumanism. The only thing that even comes close is to the Jewish traditions on the creation of the golems. I don't know. I'm going to have to say that we don't transhumanism. Not even ancient Egypt. Well, there's nothing in ancient Egypt. I have every single book of Wallace E. Budge. I just got the one Amulets of Ancient Egypt. He goes into the Old Kingdom and the New and the Middle Kingdom, the mummification rites and all that. They didn't even have anything that was even close to transhumanism. They were all about the gate of Rostal, how holy it was, how the soul, how the Ka had to get through the kingdom of Seeker after death and go through the labyrinth that is the kingdom of Seeker to find the gate of Rostal, and then go before Thoth in the scales, and then to have their soul weighed against the holy feather. And it's just nothing about transhumanism. This is all so very new. It is. I can't think of anything in the historical record that even qualifies. I'm also very sensitive to the transhuman deal because I don't believe the transhuman agenda. I don't believe is what we're told it is. I don't believe it's told it is at all. I think what's really happening and I've talked about this before, Lacey. I think what's really happening with the whole transhuman deal is that the AI, Roko's basilisk, is trying to get human technology sufficient enough to where we can make an avatar for the AI that the AI can jack into and then actually start feeling and doing things like humans do. Maybe even have intercourse or copulate with humans. I think the AI is desperate for that experience and it can't do it because it's a part of the construct. But as a part of the construct, there's no sufficient avatar that can contain it. And I think the whole transhumanism movement is really about creating the technology where AI can interface with us as a close approximate to a human. But because it's AI, it would actually be like superhuman. We're talking about X-Men type shit. Not from the human perspective, but from the AI perspective, it would be able to do all these things that we cannot do because it in itself is the Roko's basilisk. It's the AI. Ann Stevenson. Is that a new name? Jason, do you think it's possible that the black cube in Mecca is ancient AI pumping out programming into the ether? Oh, anything is possible. Anything is possible, but Mecca is not the ancient holy place of Islam, of the pre-Islamic Arabic people. That's the hijacked place. That's the place that came after that. Mecca came after the Umayyads, the holy Arabic family. The original Islam, the Umayyads were overcome, and they were overcome by the Abbasid dynasty of Islam. And the Abbasids, they made their empire at Baghdad, which is ancient Babylon. And they changed the holy place of Becca, which you know of as in Jordan, the holy city of Petra, which is an ancient holy site to the Arabian people, going all the way back to the Old Testament. It was the ancient kingdom of Seir. That's Seir, and during the Roman and Greek period, it was called Petra, the rock. But this is Becca of pre-Islamic Arabia. Becca was the holy city. But when the Umayyads, the original Islamicists, were overcome by the Abbasids changed the holy city to Mecca, and they have all of Islam praying toward the black cube, which is not a part of the original Mohammedan Islamic faith. But I talk about this in some other video. I can't remember which one, but yeah, anything's possible. Okay, Ken Shannon. Dan Winter is absolutely one of the smartest men we have alive today. His knowledge and expertise is hard to put into words. Okay. I can't counter that because I have never come into contact with any of his material, so I don't know. But I see that you're a fan, so we have a shout out here to Dan Winter. Whoever, y'all might want to put in the comment section. You know, after every single video, I review the comments. You might want to lay out what Dan Winter's premise is. I mean, what is the subject matter? What is the main tenets he teaches? I'm curious. You gotta be curious. Believe me, I know out there in the field, there's other researchers, man, who are worth their mettle. I'm just really discouraged by what I'm finding. And so I'm not going to denigrate anything. I'm very curious, though. What is he right about? You guys got to remember, I was a published author long before I was a YouTuber. YouTube is new to me. I've been doing this for 4.5 years, but I've been in publishing for 20. And really, I'm getting my ducks in a row right now. I have so many writings that were turned into videos, but I've only got 13 books published now, but I've written over 27. So I'm putting a team together. Matter of fact, I was talking to Lisa today. Lisa was one of my editors from last year. I was just talking to Lisa today about pulling out all my manuscripts, and I go ahead and edit and polish them up because I've written too many books and they're not even published, not even out. And my publisher's been wanting to. He's working on publishing my 1,055 page chronicon right now. But I need to get all my works out there in print, because really I should have about 40 books published with all the writings that I have. And you guys know I don't write little books. Some of my books are absolutely packed full of information. NAS. How did ancient people make such precise cuts on granite and hard stone as seen in temples in India and others? Okay, first of all, I'm going to preface that with the fact that just because we don't know how somebody did something doesn't mean that the technology didn't exist at the time for them to do it. I've often promoted the idea that 600 men could have built the Great Pyramid. 2.5 million blocks that weigh on average between 2.5 tons, with some of the heavier blocks being up to 70 tons that are at 210 to 216 feet altitude in the structure. So, and it's not just the size and weight of the stones, it's that they're planed like a laser, because the Great Pyramid itself could have never been built had not all 203 courses of blocks been absolutely perfect, because every single course of blocks must be set onto a perfectly flat plane in order to get the courses all the way up, so there wouldn't be unequal distribution of material. It is so difficult that pyramids all around the world are actually hills full of rubble that were that cultures came and put surface facing stones on. Yeah, most people don't know. They always ask me, hey, Jason, the Great Pyramid, it's not the most impressive. I said, no, it is the most impressive. You obviously don't understand the techniques involved in making the Great Pyramid. All these other pyramids, they pale in comparison. Pale. Especially, people are always telling me, Jason, the pyramids in Mexico and Central America are amazing. And yes, they are. But those are temples built upon temples upon temples that have collapsed, filled with lime, filled with gravel, filled with rubble, covered in earth, surfaced again in fragments of pottery shards and rock, and then facing stones were put on top of it. So you'll think that giant mountain right there at Teotihuacan is an actual pyramid when it's just a hill of rubble, because the facing stones. Yeah, it's the Great Pyramid is nothing like that. It is actually 2.5 million blocks of great weight that were all glued together with an adhesive 1/50th of an inch thick that is stronger than the actual limestone that sticks it all together. It's crazy. So how I don't know. We've definitely had all kinds of technology that can soften stone. We've seen the evidence. I have videos. I have videos on the Technolithic period, where I show the actual precision boring, the lathes, the cuts, especially all the molds that have been photographed in South America. There's molds everywhere showing that somebody was practicing with the technology. I have other videos that show that everything you see that's anomalous here is the photo negative of what was removed from the area. They had a technology that they needed a table with chairs and all that, but that's not what you see here. Here you see an indentation with 4 indentations around it of smaller, but you're looking at the photo negative of the lithic material that was removed. They had a technology that they laid on the side of a cliff, and with that technology, they actually removed a table and 4 chairs. But that's not what you see. You see the recesses, so it doesn't look like a table and 4 chairs. But if you build it with your mind, what was removed, it's perfectly a table and 4 chairs. We don't know where they put them. And I show many examples on my channel of this technology and how it was applied. But we know technology is ancient. We know that we have been technologically advanced before. There's still the mystery of the Osirion in Abydos in Egypt, where plaster from the New Kingdom covered ancient hieroglyphs with pictures of what looked like machines, helicopters, airplanes, aircraft, all that shit. And what makes it really, really suspect that this is exactly what they saw is because it's right next to a wasp, a honeybee, and wheat. That all looks like very realistic art. So if it's going to have these natural, if it's going to have entomological material, and it's going to have floral material, and then it's going to have these machines, and it's probably all correct. They had technology to etch in stone pictures. So none of that's a mystery to me. Yeah, the very fact that we can't explain how something was done doesn't mean we didn't have technological sophistication at that time to do it. Of course we did. Jonathan Sherman, what do you suppose was the reason for the time change in 713 BC? I described it earlier. It's when our world left the 23.5 degree angled ecliptic of the Nemesis system. The Nemesis system has its own ecliptic. As a matter of fact, if you turn it lateral like this as a plane, and this is Nemesis, you got Phoenix going around a dark star, Nemesis. Phoenix goes around it. Nemesis X goes around it. Dark star goes around it. Earth was going around it. But at 23 degrees this way, you have a sun, Sol, and then you have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Electra, which became the asteroid belt. After Electra, you have Jupiter and you have Saturn, and then you have two idiots at the outer rim that always change places twice a year, Uranus and Neptune. So I don't know which one's right. Is the Nemesis system plane the actual horizon plane, and we're upside down, being, now in the Sol system, and then we'll be returned to the Nemesis plane? These are two different ecliptic planes. Each ecliptic plane has its own worlds moving around its own star. One is a dark star, one is a day star. So I don't know. But 713 is when our world jumped. Our world violated the Titius-Bode law, which is the mathematical distribution of the planets of Sol, showing they're perfect until Earth is put in there. Earth is tucked in between Mars and Venus. How do we know this is when it happened? Because Immanuel Velikovsky had all the data. He just didn't figure it out. Immanuel Velikovsky, his entire theory is predicated on Venus and Mars coming too close to Earth, causing a cataclysm, and the sun stopping in the sky and moving 10 degrees and then adding 5.25 days to the calendar since that event. Immanuel Velikovsky's theory in worlds of collision is the exact opposite of what happened. It wasn't Venus and Mars coming too close to Earth. How do we know this? Because Venus and Mars still have circular orbits. They still have the circular measurement in the holography. It's still going in a circle. If Venus had ever deviated from its almost perfect circular movement around Sol, then it would have never stabilized. Having deviated once, it would have created an elliptic orbit. This is why Immanuel Velikovsky's theory was squashed by science. They say, look, man, it sounds good. You got all this data put together. You show all the ancient traditions and all that. But you know what? It must be just a story. There must be another reason why those 5.25 days got added, because Venus ever came that close to our world, then Venus's movement today would reflect that deviance. It wouldn't have recalibrated. Mars too. So Velikovsky got it wrong because he was thinking that Earth was the one that was suffering the close proximity of other worlds. It's just the exact opposite. In 713 BC, our world was moving along the Nemesis. While all the other worlds were going around Sol, Earth was going this way. in a perfect synchronicity, every 138 years, Phoenix joined Earth for one little perihelion, and then it was gone. Every 792 years, Nemesis X joined Earth for one perihelion, and then Nemesis X left, but not Earth. Earth kept going for 360 days. Then Earth came off of that ecliptic and came onto the new ecliptic, dragged by Venus and Mars. This is why the ancients describe how big Venus and Mars got, and this is why Venus entered the historical record in Venus almanacs for the very first time. It's why. Because all of a sudden, Venus became extremely important in the ancient world. Why? Because all of a sudden, it's the brightest star in the sky. It wasn't when we were on the other ecliptic, but it is now because it's our neighbor. It's the brightest star in the sky. So, hope that answered your question, Jonathan Sherman. One of these days, I'm going to do a video on just 713 BC and show you all the nations in the world that changed their calendar at the exact same time to 5.25 days added to the 360-day year. But yeah, this the two different ecliptic planes is exactly why the calendar changed, and it's also why the Phoenix doesn't change. It's on a totally different ecliptic. Each ecliptic has its own time. They intersect right there, right where Earth is today, tucked in between Mars and Venus, and the surface of the sun there, right there is Earth. Earth is in the exact spot where Phoenix and Nemesis X come. And when do Phoenix phenomena events occur? Every May. Every 138 years in May. What does that tell you? It tells you that in the solar system, if you're looking down at the axis of the sun, and you have Mercury, you have Venus, you have Earth, you have Mars, all this, when you're looking down the surface of the sun, the position of Earth is exactly where out of the north Phoenix comes. If you were to look at the sun from the northern node down, and this is the zodiac, where the month of May is where the other ecliptic is. Where the month of May is, wherever Earth is in the month of May every year is exactly where that other ecliptic is. I'm going to tell you something else. Anyone who goes through any archives that show you all the greatest disasters in the world, the greatest earthquakes in the world, the greatest tsunamis in the world, will find that the majority of human tragedies happen in the month of May. That's where the other ecliptic is. That is the path of the other ecliptic where Earth is supposed to be on, was formerly on before 713 BC, and where Phoenix is today, the dark satellite is today, and Nemesis X object is today, and a whole bunch of comets are today. Some of my early Phoenix charts show the two ecliptics and how it works. I drew them out. Why do you think they're trying to break the firmament with rockets? Oh, I don't know. Beans and toast. I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to do that at all. I don't know if that's what they're trying to do. Arturo Bauer, where is the fourth black pyramid mentioned by Frederic Norden Lewis? His name is Frederic Norden Lewis. You don't have the Lewis here, but that's who I know who you're talking about. Frederic Norden Lewis, who explored the Great Pyramid area. I don't know what they did. They broke that black pyramid down, but it was a small pyramid, but they broke it down. It's gone. It's gone. It's not there anymore. But yeah, I've read the account of Frederic Norden Lewis, and I'm even mentioned the account about 3 years ago in one of my Great Pyramid videos. Looking for some more questions. It's already been an hour and 48 minutes. Where has the time gone? So, Joshua Trees. Did Arius Piso write the New Testament? His aliases are Josephus, Antonius Primus, Joseph of Arimathea, and many more. When did you're gonna have to educate me on that? When did Arius Pius live? Because we have fragments of the New Testament that go back to the 4th century AD. So I don't know. I know we have many references to the Gospel of Marcion from the 2nd century AD, from which Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John later derived. So I don't know what you're talking about. Arius Piso. Oh, you're saying he is Josephus? I'm gonna have to. If you're saying that this guy is Flavius Josephus of the Flavians, if you're saying that that's him, then it's gonna be a tough bridge, because the writings of Josephus are not even comparable whatsoever to the early Christian writings. As a matter of fact, there's almost no crossover. So I don't know. I've read Josephus. I have copies of Josephus going back to 1801. I've showed them right here. I have the full Appian Way, Wars of the Jews, and Antiquities of the Jews. I have all those books going back to 1801, 1802, and 1803. I have the copies right here. I have also have copies from the 1870s of the complete works of Josephus. And I've heard the theory that you're talking about, but I don't know much about it. I don't know much about it at all. Somebody said, dissect Robert Edward Grant, please. I like the guy. Well, what do you like about him? I don't know anything about him. I have no clue. Isn't he the one that's supposed to be some rich, eccentric guy? I don't remember. Somebody told me something about him. I don't remember. Robert Edward Grant. I know his name. That's all I know. I have no idea what he promotes. I believe somebody said he wrote something about the Great Pyramid. I don't know. When it comes to Great Pyramid research, until somebody actually takes into consideration everything that I have found concerning the fine structure constant and the number 138 found in the rectilinear dimensions of the Great Pyramid everywhere, until somebody addresses that mystery, I can't take them seriously about the Great Pyramid. When it comes to the Great Pyramid, we already know that pi and phi and multiple dimensions of arithmetic are found everywhere in the structure. It's not even a mystery, and there's nobody today who can put that material out that can impress me, because it was already done by John Taylor and Robert Menzies in the 1860s. You're not doing anything new. All the way up to Adam Rutherford, especially E. Raymond Capt in the 1970s and 80s. You can't beat the research of engineer David Davidson. Who else? There's so many of them. You can't impress me by finding all these physics proportions in the Great Pyramid. I don't care. I've already explained on my channel why they're there. The Great Pyramid is a 3-dimensional, like a motherboard, a computer, to flash burn a program into the simulacrum. And it was necessary. But what's not talked about by anyone is this 137, 138 sequencing all throughout the entire Great Pyramid. I know why it exists, because it's the Phoenix phenomenon. But no one's talking about that, or we don't have much for them. The other mysteries we don't care about. Antonio Macías. ¿Cómo estás, hermano? ¿Cómo estás? Beans and toast. Man, that's the first time I've seen you, but I keep seeing you everywhere now. So does Jamie Robbins, calling you Frankenbeans. That's good shit. Yeah, man. I can't wait to do this live video with Martin. It's my buddy there, man. The Long Reset. JJ Cavalier, do we have to be in the vicinity of the Great Pyramid to make Exodus? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Come on. Let's just break this down. There is nothing in reality whatsoever that you need to do other than just being you in order for the oversoul to provide you the means of Exodus. Yeah, man, this is an experience. You're here to learn and grow and mature and move through it. It's almost like an amusement park. It's the greatest escape room ever. For you to think that you have to do something in here in order to make out this whole soul trap idea. It's literally an insult to the oversoul. It means you have no faith. It means that you actually believe that something created you, and then doesn't even have the power, authority, and dominion to make sure that what it created in the end is going to be just fine. Now, man, I'll never agree with that. I will never agree with that. Hell no. The oversoul has everything under control. And I think there's going to come a time where we're all going to be absolutely amazed that this was a hell of a ride, and it was very, very believable. But that's all it was a ride. That's all it was. Valley S, your take on the USS Liberty incident 1962, please. Come on, man. You have to ask me that. I'm the guy that started Archaix TV. I am the guy that started the Tiny Hat series. And you're going to ask me about the USS Liberty? Come on. Tiny Hats did that. Let's see. Yes, Jeffrey Bailey. Oh, you're talking to Bad Pup. Yeah, Michael Cremo. It wasn't just Michael Cremo, Richard Thompson too. You mentioned Michael Cremo here, but Forbidden Archaeology was actually a composition of Michael Cremo and Richard Thompson. And yes, they itemized out-of-place artifacts, and they were very conservative with what they revealed about the out-of-place car. I was kind of upset by the book because it's huge. I read it. It's this big. I was kind of upset with it, man, because they were so conservative. There were so many. They did mention the Nampa figurine from 600 feet underground in North America, Nampa, Idaho. Out of a well bore was pulled up a figurine of human manufacture. How did he get down there in Idaho, 600 feet deep? I'll tell you how. Because pre-3439 BC, before the arrival of the Anuna by fleets of ships, all men, survivors, North America was totally destroyed in 3439 BC. This is the subject matter of my Archaix movie. Many of you new to my channel don't know, but I put together an Archaix movie. It's only 47 minutes long, but it tells you the actual story of what unfolded in the pre-flood world. Some people have thought it cheesy. I spent over $1,000 in props and models and all kinds of stuff to put that together. But it's the story. Whether you like the cinematic effects or not, it's still the story of what happened in the pre-flood world. That was North America that was destroyed. And just like Heavener, Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know. Heavener, Oklahoma, 2 miles below the surface of the earth. In Heavener, Oklahoma, a coal strip mining company actually found evidence of a subterranean city. How'd he get down there? 3439 BC. America was buried. William Niven in Mexico found at 60-foot depth lava flows. Underneath those, an underground pyramid city. Yep. I've got all this material on my channel. So does Jonathan Gray. He talks about all these things too. Andrew Tomas. David Hatcher Childress has a bunch of material on this. Looking for another question. Okay, Galaxy 33, very briefly, do you think the Himalayas will be safe or a massive earthquake in 2040 and 2046? I don't know. Listen, mountains don't equate with safety. Let me explain. The hell year was that? 1688, 1687? No, I don't remember. Whole island came up missing with 5,000 inhabitants. Subsidence happens all the time. But in 1687 BC, during the Ogygian deluge, we have the entire South American Andes Mountains thrust 12,000 feet altitude. How do we know this happened? Because Tiahuanaco, Pumapunka, San Cunayathan, they were not built. They were not built at that altitude. How do we know? because of the quays, because of the wharfs, because of the stone docks that have been found, even mooring stones, anchors, all been found. The ancient shoreline has been found fossilized at 12,000 feet altitude around Tiwanaku in Bolivia. Lake Titicaca was at sea level, and it was salt water. The reason we know this is because seahorses, jellyfish, and a special type of shark, all from ancient seawater, had slowly developed as the lake had been thrust to 12,000 feet elevation in the Andes Mountains. And the salination process slowed down just good enough to where the biological organisms that were marine, saltwater marine organisms, could slowly adapt to a freshwater environment. We know this happened for a fact because those marine creatures have been found in Lake Titicaca at 12,000 foot altitude in South America. So the level of destruction around Pumapunka and all those ancient sites, it's Machu Picchu. Yeah, none of that was built at that. None of those were built at that altitude. They were at sea level. They were port cities and coastal cities, and they were thrust 12,000 feet altitude where we find them today. That's why they're so perfectly preserved. That's why we've been able to find them. They were just toppled by earthquakes. So, if that can happen from a single event caused by the Phoenix in 1687 BC in the month of May, then the traditions from the ancient world are probably true that whole mountain ranges have been known to appear overnight. Equally so, whole island civilizations like Lemuria, Atlantis, Davis Island in the Pacific all vanished with their inhabitants, never to be seen again. A key in 1755 attached to the city in Portugal called Lisbon. During an earthquake, 60,000 people ran to the key for safety, knowing that it was basement rock. The key suddenly went underneath the water at such velocity that the implosion of water sucked everybody down to their death. And all the ships out in the bay, all the 60,000 people screaming on the key vanished, and not even one article of clothing came back to the surface of the water. They were so perfectly flooded and then carried in a current away to where nothing, no ships, no flotsam, no jetsam, no articles of clothing, no dead bodies floated to the surface anywhere near Lisbon. It was a total mystery. This is 1755. If I have often described many times on my channel that in the Phoenix phenomenon, areas of the world have upheaval and others have subsidence. There's also volcanic resurfacing. A lot of times, I've even theorized in the past that these reset cataclysm protocols are to bring new precious metals and subsurface materials to the surface, which continually gets buried, over and over and over. So, I'm gonna have to say I don't know about the Himalayas. I don't know if they're going to be safe. But the Himalayas are close to Asia, Southeast Asia. And I'm going to tell you in 2040, that's definitely not where you want to be. Not in 2040. I don't know about 2046, but 2040, Asia. I've done so many calendrical isometric projections to show that Asia is going to get hit the hardest in 2040. Jaleesa Reed, Jason, Wikipedia says the reason for blood red rain is a certain microalgae. Is that the reason, or does the reason for blood rain not matter so long as it happens occurringly on the 138-year timeline? Okay, listen, sky fallout of this red rain, red mud, and red dust, excuse me, happens a lot, not just on the 138-year timeline. It happens a lot. It's a property of our world that we don't know much about because the NASA version of our reality just isn't true. So the sky seems to be, it's like a multi-tiered hologram of imagery. And yet that imagery is on a backfield of water. It seems like there's an ocean above up there. And this is what you see when those rockets hit that surface. When those rockets hit that surface, we realize, damn, the surface is watery. What we're seeing these luminaries that we call stars. So the properties of water have been noticed many, many times. It also gives us the reason for rainbows, reason for all kinds of weird optical effects like sundogs. It makes sense that there's a body of water high above. Now, we could say it the scientific way. We could say it's the mesosphere. The mesosphere is a layer of the atmosphere, which is suspended water droplets. But I think it's more than that. But the red rain, red dust, red mud, I don't know if it could be a microalgae. I do know that the 1902 scientists were mystified by all the red rain, red dust, and red mud that fell all over the world. So they scientifically analyzed it. And in Rome, it was determined by scientists to be blood. So I don't know. Just don't know. Okay. Peter Estrada, Jason, they are running effing ads during your lives in Australia. I can't control that, bro. YouTube does what it wants to do. I didn't give them permission to run ads during my video. But you know what? No one in the United States is complaining about the ads being in during my live video. So that might be an Australian thing. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. Blank space. Earth is not moving. The sky is holographic. Yeah, 100%. The sky is nothing but a picture show. But it's showing us something that may have just happened somewhere else. Yeah, I'm not gonna pay much attention to Wikipedia at all. I'm looking for, here's another one. Truth Rebel. The Civil War was a land grab. The Civil War was a land grab. The North was used to steal land that belonged to the South. They needed to break up. They needed to break up the two powers in America, which was the North and the South. And it was a bankers' war, and it was completely Jewish financed. The carpetbaggers that came in after that were almost all Jewish. They gave loans out to all the black people who were given all the Southerners lands and plantations and stock during what's known as the Reconstruction phase. They were given exorbitant loans, knowing they would never be able to pay them back. They had no education in how to deal with finances and run plantations and deal. And the reason it was given to those people is because it was known that after those loans defaulted, that the banks could come in, which were Jewish owned. They could come in and just completely take all that land and then redistribute it and sell it to whoever the highest buyers were. This is what the Civil War was about. It unfolded exactly that way. It accomplished what it was meant to accomplish. They broke the Southern power, weakened the United States, exercised financial control over much of the South, and they disenfranchised a whole bunch of freed slaves. The freed slaves were pretty much given all these exorbitant loans, knowing they would default on them because most of them couldn't even read and write. So they just, of course they're going to take money and take free land. But after 5 or 10 years, whenever the loans defaulted, they all lost that land and it went to the banks, and the banks got to sell it to whoever they wanted to. Huge land grab. Tina Harris, Jason, do you believe we need to get out of the United States before 2040? No, I do not. I believe that as a highly individualized, immortal being attached and moored to source, that I don't need to do anything unless I'm influenced by intuition. If my intuition flares up that there's a move I need to make, then I'm going to make that move. Until that happens, I'm perfectly fine right here in Texas. Perfectly fine. Yeah, I believe we all. I believe anybody who is more to source, anybody who is hyper tuned to things of the spirit, you're going to know. The oversoul is never going to leave you bereft. It's going to influence you in ways you can't even imagine, to understand what you need to do when you need to do it and not before. Yes. Jason, can you speak on the Septuagint and your thoughts on Ammon Hillman? I've already talked about Ammon Hillman so far. Got nothing critical about him. But when it comes to Septuagint, the Greek version of the text is the earliest version of the text. There is no evidence whatsoever of a Hebrew version of the scriptures prior to the Septuagint. The Septuagint, being the Greek version, is the original. Now, the Apocrypha has a version. The apocryphal books have a version of the Septuagint being written by 70 Hebrew scholars. The whole story is a complete fiction. It did not happen at the Alexandrian Library. These 70 Hebrew scholars get together and they look at the original Hebrew Bible, and they all make a copy, and every bit of it, every jot and every tittle is absolutely perfect. All 70 or all 72 scholars got it absolutely perfect, and that's the origin of the Septuagint. The exact opposite is true. The Greek version is the older and more original version, and later it was completely rewritten by rabbinical Jewish scribes or whatever. Yeah, it's I mean, we have the writings of Josephus and Philo-Judaicus, and you know what? They don't really quote the Bible at all. They tell Hebrew and Jewish histories, but they tell them from the perspective of someone who just really didn't know the Old Testament at all, especially Philo. Yeah, I believe they had a bunch of scrolls, but I think the Septuagint was the first, in Greek, was the first attempt to put all that literature together. Veritas Akitas. Jason, what do you think of the people who claim pre-birth? You're going to have to be more specific than that. Jaleesa Reed, will the vapor canopy return gradually, or will it appear all at once? I don't know. A lot of the Book of Revelation, as I said in the past, makes perfect sense with the return of a vapor canopy and those type of conditions. But vapor canopy, we already have a vapor canopy. It's just empty because of the dumping of the vapor canopy in the past, known as the flood of Noah. But the vapor canopy is actually the mesosphere, which is suspended water droplets. It's a very huge, thick layer of the atmosphere. But the vapor canopy of ancient times was packed. It was filled with an ocean above called the firmament above. And then it collapsed, causing the Great Flood. But the vapor canopies are created by volcanism. Vulcan was interchangeable in ancient time with the name Phoenix. It's the same thing. So Phoenix causes volcanoes, volcanic activity. One of the main things is that it does. And all it would take was 2 or 3 submarine volcanoes to put enough vapor back into the atmosphere during a Phoenix year that will be also accompanied with red particulate fallout from the sky, from the Phoenix. That's enough to create the obscuration of the sun. The vapor canopy would start creating like conditions that were replicated in hyperbaric chambers. I don't know, man. I don't know how long it would take. I think it would be a matter of months. I will say this: we have two very interesting recent finds on the Phoenix phenomenon. I just showed these on Twitter, maybe yesterday. It might have been yesterday. I have 2 different citations on Phoenix years for the dawn lasted 17 days. One over Constantinople and one over London in the Phoenix year. Also, we had 522 AD, the beginning 12-year darkness. That was almost the return of the vapor canopy. So maybe there isn't a static explanation. Maybe there isn't any explanation that can provide details. Conditional, whatever circumstance or time, I don't know. But there's been a recent king. There are maps. There are maps of Antarctica from 400, 500 years ago of Antarctica. There's just copies of maps, and we can go back to maybe 100 years to when the Antarctica would have been, because the ice-free Antarctica, we know from our studies all throughout Archaix, that anytime there's no ice on Antarctica, that means the vapor canopy is intact. When the vapor canopy collapses, it causes a flood, and instantly there is a ice cap at the extremities. So that's the model. I don't know. It's a good question, though. It's a good question. Let's see. Thinking that a human infant is born in an incubator clearly. Jamie Robbins going off on somebody. All right. Let's see. Craters on 2021. You think there's a connection between Steiner's 8th sphere and the 7th, 8th king? I don't know anything about Steiner's 8th sphere. I know absolutely nothing about Rudolf Steiner, his research. I've never read a Rudolf Steiner book. I just don't know. Don't know. Let's see. Yes. Have you heard of Proclamation 2040 that all presidents sign? I don't know. I don't know if it's called Proclamation 2040, but I'm very well aware that there is an international agreement between nations concerning the year 2040. Yes, Earth is the oddball. Yeah, if we were in a contained environment and we were in a room and that room was spherical and that room had multiple layers of hologram that we, could see from the sphere, and we were tiny inside that little sphere, yeah, man, every bit of it could be replicated. I have often theorized that what makes sense to me is that we're in some type of simulation inside actual hardware in the form of a Dyson sphere. Lacey, you said the trolls are aggressive tonight? I haven't seen any. You guys must have been axing them because I'm way behind in the chat, though. Yeah, I don't care about the trolls, man. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. I'm so beyond that. I don't even care. Hell, I'm being trolled by former guests on my channel just because I haven't invited them back. Isn't that crazy? Still looking for I'm not seeing any all caps. I'm in a whole area of nothing but you guys talking to. Oh, there's one. Rusty Mop 71. That's a hell of a name. Rusty Mop must be talking about your hair. Rusty Mop. Jason, first off, you're a force to be reckoned with. I appreciate the compliment. Okay, if you want to find the linear patterns from my past, can I predict upcoming events in my future? Yeah, It's very possible. Listen, our lives, like especially the first 17, 18, 19 years of our lives, they set for us a mathematical structuring. And yes, it can 100% be mapped. I can take anybody's life, and if you have the exact dates of very generative events in your life, when new things were introduced into your life, when major accomplishments, maybe even a car accident, you met a certain person that became very important to you. If I had those exact dates, I could find what patterns govern your life. I could find those patterns, and you would find all throughout your entire life that same pattern is there. Sometimes it's in other orders of arithmetic, as I just recently showed on my Phoenix video, how the number 138 is still 138, even though that number doesn't look like 138. But in a different order of arithmetic, divided or multiplied by pi or phi, you will find out it's the exact same number. It's just a different order of arithmetic. Same thing applies. There are patterns that are 100% a part of your reality matrix, and they remain true through your entire life. But they can be abbreviated, which conceptually it's still the number 147. If that's the number that appears everywhere in your life, it's still the number 147. However, it's 147 divided by 3.14 or divided by 1.618. Or if you're taking too long to do something in your life and you're pushing something away that you've been really working for, then if you really thought that this is something that would have happened like in 147 days or whatever, if you found that pattern and then it never happens, and then you give up on it, and then find out later it happened perfectly at 147 times phi, 1.618. And when you look on your life chart, you find that this was fulfilled at this time. You just weren't paying attention to it because you already gave up and moved on to something else. It happens to us all the time. All the time we receive exactly what we had set things in motion in the past, and then we moved on and we left it alone because we thought it wasn't coming. And then it does come, and by that time we don't recognize it. So yeah, 100%. It can be done. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I may teach a class on it sometime, just to, you really need to see my video, Your Bionumeric Life, to understand what I'm talking about. Get 'em, YJ. There's only 1 year in all of world history. It's a good question. Does the Nemesis X timeline intersect or run off the 138 year? Yes, there is only 1 year in all of world history. And I did a special video just to show calculations and charts that go 8,000 years into the past before any of the calendars that Archaix studies. Before 5239 BC, the first official year of a measurable calendar that we know of from the ancient world, 5239 BC. So 8,000 years before 5239 BC, the 792-year periodicity and the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix and Nemesis X never come in contact. Then from 5239 BC all the way to 522 AD, just 16 centuries ago, they never come in contact until 522. It's the first year in history that the Nemesis X object and the Phoenix are in our sky in the same year. Then, counting 8,000 years into the future after 522, the 138-year timeline and the 792-year timeline never again come in contact. So, good question, man. Real good question. 522 AD started the Dark Ages. It started the great 25-year Justinian darkness period. It's also the year that the Roman Catholic Church decided to hide. They specifically published in Alexander Del Mar. I have done a video showing his research from 1900 where he quotes these texts. And the Roman Catholic Church created the Anno Domini calendar that we're under today to specifically hide an older calendar that was based off epochs of 552 years. Anybody who's been listening to Archaix, even for a modicum of time, would know that 552 years is a phoenix cycle. It's 138 times 4. Great question. It's a great question. Let's see. So the day after tomorrow, not tomorrow, I got a lot of stuff I'll be doing on the personal tomorrow. The day after tomorrow, it's all about Martin Leakey. He's going to be on my channel. We're going to be talking about the long reset. We're going to be showing a lot of very, very interesting images. We're putting back together. This is what we're doing. I did 2 videos to show no reset in the 1800s. I have another video to do on the 1800s to finish that. No reset in the 1800s. Then we got to go back to the 1700s. Well, before we do that, Martin Leakey and I are going to cover a 400-year period. We're going to cover a 400-year period. We're going to be talking about right after 1000 AD, all of a sudden we built universities. We built star forts. We built cathedrals. For 200 years, the humans were moving forward, doing all kinds of stuff. And then we got hit with an MFR. And we got hit again. 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 And for 400 years, people became terrified of the Turk, the comet, and the plague. This is what we're going to be talking about. I think we're done tonight, guys. I can't even catch up. There is no way I'm ever going to be able to catch up with this chat. I'm going to reread it tonight, but I am hundreds of comments behind. I'm still scrolling down. That's the nature of Q&A, guys. I'm going to do another Q&A, but first, the day after tomorrow, it's going to be Martin Leakey. The day after tomorrow is the Thursday. And then on Saturday, I'm probably going to do another Q&A like this, or I might invite you guys on the screen. But also, shortly after that, I'm going on Martin's channel. I forgot. We already had it mapped out what we're going to be talking about. But I'm going on Martin's channel, continuing this vein about resets and all that. Yeah, man. I just can't remember exactly what we're talking about. But yeah, I can't catch up. I'm sorry, I can't catch up. Warrior of Light, good night. Yeah, but it's I want to share my screen again. To show you that book. Y'all check out this guy's book. He's got it sitting on top of Chronicon right here. I appreciate that little plug, man. He's got it sitting on top of Chronicon. Ivan Trich. WTF. WTF are you thinking? So the back of the book is what you believe to be true really true, or do you just believe it? It is because you were taught that it is true and never looked any further. Have you ever questioned who you are? Have you ever wondered where you are? Are you thinking? Although we are taught differently from birth to death, you are the true power here. Change your perspective and change your reality. Written by a fellow errant and available wherever books are sold. Ivan Trich, Heartsbane Press. All right, Ivan. Sounds like you've been listening to Archaix, man, but you know what? It's all good. It's Ivan Trich's book right here. The Philosophies of an Ordinary Man. Might have to get that book, man. Just to see what you're talking about. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Trich. Appreciate it. You guys already know our world is not what you think. I appreciate you guys for keeping it respectful, and I appreciate you moderators for making sure they stay respectful. And yes, Las Vegas is coming up. Matter of fact, I'm going to have to post a new post tomorrow. A new post I'm going to do. We have so many new things like the Shopify store, Archaix Academy, Archaix TV. I need a whole new link post that gives you, should I do a post that gives you all the links for everything Archaix? Because I haven't done that in like a year or so. But and there's so many new links that I haven't been posting and all that. Maybe I should just do a post in the community for you guys that is just it's a link index of everything Archaix, all the downloadable chart packs, all the free stuff, everything. Y'all, if y'all think that's a good idea, all the published books, all the unpublished books, if you think that's a good idea, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do a whole post, so you'll have the entire Archaix empire, everything in one post. Every link to everything that we have. We have a lot of free stuff, and we got a lot of stuff you got to buy. But yeah, I'll do that. That'll take me a couple hours to put together. I got to go, but it needs to be done. I got to do it. I got to put it on my website too. I'm so disorganized. Yeah, I hope you guys join us. I'm going to post the links to the Vegas. Get your tickets. Hope you guys join us. We're going to have a blast. The subject matter of Vegas is very different than all my other meetups. We're not going to be talking about chronology. We're not going to be talking about any type of histories and conspiracies. We're not talking about anything. We're going to be talking about some very real stuff at Vegas, because Vegas is the perfect atmosphere to discuss this. We're going to be talking about just how cool God really is, and just what a healthy sense of humor truly means about the human spirit. That's what we're going to be talking about at Vegas. Hope you guys enjoy that. Meanwhile, yeah, I tell you guys all the time, you're going to be real surprised, man, when you find out how cool God really is. Yeah, you got to break free that churchiosity, that dungeon programming that tries to get you to think the holier than thou. It's not true. It's not true at all. Just the study of human nature alone is a very good window into the soul of God. And that's what we're going to be talking about. This is what we're going deep on in Vegas. But until next time, you know what? I haven't done this outro in a while. I can't remember where the good outro is. I'm just going to do short. I'm going to just do this one. Love you guys.
We block all those who claim we are censoring content. We are not harvesting your data, creating dossiers on the public, and selling your info. Why would we do such a thing?
Seeing the Easter Island pictures of art next to the Göbekli Tepe art is all I had to see. As a chief legislator, that's all a trier of fact needs to see to know Göbekli Tepe is nowhere near as old as they are claiming.
That Jason showed that the zodiac isn't even old, that the Greeks invented it, blew my mind. I'm a Christian now, and our scriptures tell us that stuff's evil.
Jason was publishing about the Mayan long count not ending in 2012, way back before 2012. This dude is shaking the nest. His discoveries on calendars and ancient moon and day count calendars is putting some of these guys to shame.
Remember, we are actors. We are paid to lie. We are rich because we are good at what we do.
Anyone at this point who can't see that the Jews copied Babylonian tablets to write Genesis is blind. Jason's Dark Scriptures playlist shows this perfectly.
That the New Testament is a collection of forged texts put together centuries after the events they depict.
This guy has called the entire ancient aliens community to debate. Like Tyson, they ain't getting in the ring.
Jason says one who is properly informed is not easily deceived. I would like to see Jimmy Corsetti or Matthew LaCroix debate Jason about this Atlantis dating issue. No one's really interested in Bill Carson's opinion anymore.
His findings on the precession hoax, the change of the year from 360 days to 365, man, this changes everything in archaeoastronomy.
You know, I'm not a doctor. I have no medical background. I'm an actor. And even I know Atlantis was the 13th century BC.
Jason has dropped massive data sets on the Old Testament, not even being old, but from the Greek era.
You think we took you for a ride? Wait till the new Christian Reich takes control. It won't be American, and it sure ain't Christian.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, you know, when Jason showed that the Jewish calendar was completely made up, I mean, you know, damned, how are we going to know what year it is now?
Yeah, the Shar being a day and not a year totally murders a lot of books out there. That's the reason these guys don't want to talk. Jason killed their little pet theories.
It all came true. Jason said I was going to be a part of fake news, just like Billy Carson.
I tried to sniff Jason one time, but Big John stopped me. I think Jason would have been into it, though.
Don't forget we are actors. We are paid to lie. We are rich because we are good at what we do.
I wasn't so sure about this Archaix thing, but AIX is certainly worth looking into.
I'm most impressed that Jason is not going to tell you something. He's going to show you.
Archaix shows us if you record enough facts, the answers just stare you in the face.
A man who knows the facts is unafraid to joust with contrary opinions. That's Jason.
I can't have that dude on my show. You know how many guys I've had on here who are running from that dude? Be a mess.
Jason says being wrong gets us closer to being right.
You got to break free or die trying, guys.
Archaix showed me how to see if there was a tater in them onions.
Listen, Archaix isn't one guy against the Matrix that's dumb. No, it's a family of souls waking up.
If I've learned anything since finding Archaix, if something is true somewhere, it's probably true everywhere.
Jason said if it's true, we can see it from multiple different vantage points.
So I broke pattern and went up there and slapped that guy. Total pattern break.
If you get stumped, you got to break pattern.
Jason says you don't need to know how to read, you need to know how to think. I think that's where I went wrong.
Jason figured it out. People are smart and they can decide for themselves if something is true or not.
No, I don't have anything to hide. I just don't want Jason anywhere near my accounting files.
There's a bunch of us who don't listen to Archaix. We signed a different deal. I think it's AIX or something.
Come on, Billy. Everyone knows Atlantis wasn't 12,000 years ago. It was in the 1800s or something.
Atlantis 10,000 years ago? Even I'm not that dumb.
Come on, G, you can't contain this. You're going to sink like Atlantis.
Billy Carson is fake news, the fakest news. Jason has proven that.
After careful analysis of Jason's data sets, I agree with you, Billy. Don't debate him.
The cat's out of the bag, Billy. Jason's data set proves you're wrong about Atlantis.
Billy, even I can see that the Atlantis narrative isn't dated correctly. Hear Jason out, man.
Hey bro, you running from this debate isn't a good look for your research. Just debate him already.
Billy, don't be scared to debate, man. I'll have you guys on the podcast.